Morning, year 10. Bit of a trigonometry then for today. So we're looking at the cosine rule. So as usual, I want you to take down the heading, lesson objectives, keywords, dates in Welsh. So click pause, copy that down. When you're ready, click play again. And we move on to the starter. 3 questions, just the 3 questions today. So as usual, click pause, work through the solutions. When you're ready, click play again and we'll go through the answers. Okay, we'll try and go through these answers now. Try and sort this pen out. There we go. So as usual, we try and make this one significant figure. So 39 to one significant figure is 40, 40, times 489 to one significant figure is 500, and then to one significant figure 0.225. remember, you place the line here, you check if the 2 affects it, doesn't affect it, so it's just 0.2. Okay, that's the one that people have trouble with, is that 0.2. Okay, it's not 0, it's 0.2. Work it out then. 5 times 4 is 20. And then we got 3 zeros divided by 0.2. Now I look at 0.2 and I don't want to do this, well, I can multiply top and bottom by 10. Well, and divide. So it would be 200,000 divided by 2, which will give me 100,000. So we could do it that way. Equals 200,000 divided by 2. So let's do it times 10 and times 10. And that gives me 100,000. Which is fine. I was just thinking of the alternative way of doing this. You can have 20,000 divided by 0.2 is the same thing as a fifth, 1 over 5. Oops, 1 over 5, and to divide by a fraction I multiply by the reciprocal, so it's 20,000 times 5 over 1, which gives us the same answer, 100,000. Okay, so either way works out fine. Second one, find the volume of this prism. Now I'm going to split it into 2, shape A and shape B. So draw a line down here. This is shape A and this is shape B. So if I find the volume of each one and then add them together. So volume of shape A, that's going to be 11 by 5 by 6. So 11 times 5 times 6, that would be 55 times 6, which is 330, and the units cm cubed. And then volume B, and that's going to be, I need this section here, the whole thing is 10, from here to here is 6, so I'm left with 4 centimeters. The height, so the whole length is 11, that top to bottom is 8, so 11 take away 8, that's 3, and the length is 5. So I've got 3 times 4 times 5. So 12 times 5, which is 60. When I add the 2 together, I get 390 cubic centimeters. And finally, on this one, I got 9c plus 160 equals 5f. So I want to find the Celsius, when f is 50. So I need to find c. So if I say 9c plus 160 is equal to 5f, I take my plus 160 and I float it over the other side. So on the other side it becomes minus. So 9c, let's try again, 9c is equal to 5f minus 160, and so C is equal to 5F, 5F minus 160 divided by 9. F is 50, so that's 5 times 50 minus 160 over 9, and that's 250. So that's 250 minus 160 over 9. 250 minus, put my equal sign, 250 minus 160 is 90. So 90 divided by 9 is 10. So if we put it over here, take an arrow, 90 divided by 9, and the answer is 10 degrees. 10 degrees Celsius. Good. Hopefully you got all those three correct. You got anything wrong, write out the correction in full, okay, with all workings, not just the answer. Okay, and then we move on. So what we want to do, we've got this cosine rule, which we're going to look at in a minute. We're going to look at the cosine rule, and it helps us then to find either a side or an angle that's missing when the triangle is not a right angle triangle. So Pythagoras only works for right angle triangles, so does SOHCAHTOA. Now those two only work for right angle triangles. So when we have angles, triangles that are not right angle, then all of a sudden we have something that's difficult to work with. And if we use the cosine rule and the sine rule, which we'll use in future, we can work on any of those. So there's your right angle triangle, which is fine. You can use your SOHCAHTOA or Pythagoras. So anytime you see a right angle and you need to do trig, go straight there, Pythagoras or SOHCAHTOA. Here we've got, it's more than 90, so it's an obtuse angle. So a squared is going to be greater than b squared plus c squared. And you can imagine then, when I show you when it's an acute angle, a squared is going to be less than b squared plus c squared. Okay, so we can't use, for these two, we cannot use Pythagoras or SOHCAHTOA. And so we have to use something slightly different. So, cosine rule is used to find an unknown side when two sides and the included angle are given, or an unknown side when three sides, an unknown angle when three sides are given. Okay, so what we're going to look at today is the first one, finding an unknown side when two sides and an included angle. So the angle has got to be between the two sides that we're looking for. Okay, and that's our formula. A squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. We're lucky with this one because in the exam it's on the first page, the information side of our booklet, so it's always there, we can always access it. Now we can rewrite that in terms of b or c, and we can write b squared is equal to a squared plus c squared minus 2ac cos b, or we can write in terms of c squared. I always just use this formula, and you can rewrite your triangle so that you're always looking for a squared. So you can move your a and move your b and your c so that you have this formula. And that's the simplicity of it. A squared is the length of that side there. It's opposite the angle that we know, cos a. And then you've got b squared and c squared and the angle that's in between them. So b and c and the angle in between. Then we can find a. Okay, so I always use just this formula. Either I rearrange it, I don't really bother with having to use these two. Okay, so let's look at the first question then. Our first question is, we've got two sides. One side is equal to 8 centimeters, the other one's 9.6, and the angle in between them, that's what it means by the angle, the included angle, is 40 degrees. So we write our formula, which we've been given, very kindly been given. So we're going to write it here. A squared, always write the formula, it helps with your memory. And the more you use it, plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. The more you use it, the more you write it down, the more you remember it, and then you don't have to refer to it in the exam at the front part of your booklet. When you start referring to it, it means you're not familiar with it, and so mistakes can come. So if you write it each time, it will help. So we've got A, and the two sides then with the angle in between, it doesn't really matter which order I write them. So if I call the 8 centimeter, if I call that B, and I call this C, then I've got 8 squared plus 9.6 squared minus 2 times B is 8, we just said that, times C is 9.6 times cos of A, the angle in between them, or the included angle, cos 40. I can put that in my calculator, work it out. It gives me 38.49. But that's A squared. So I need to find A, and I do that by finding the square root of this 39.38 even, 0.49. And the square root of 38.49 is 6.2. 6.2. Put a 0 there, 2 decimal places, centimeters. So what I want you to do now is hit pause, copy this down as an example, and when you're ready to look at the next example, click play again. Okay, so we move on to our next example. Question 2. This time we want to find M. So we want to find M. We're given one side is 7.7, the other side is 5.4. So as before, I can relabel these. I can call this side my A. Oops, there we go. A here. Call this side B. And call this side C. And that's my angle opposite A. So that's angle A there. That's opposite B. So that's big B there. And then opposite small c is the big C there. So we've got A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cos A. Remember now, A is M in this case. Remember always to write the formula. M squared is equal to B is 7.7 plus C is 5.4 minus 2 times 7.7 times 5.4 times cos of 65. So I can plug all that in my calculator. It should give me 53.31. That's M squared. So M is going to be the square root of that. When I find the square root, it gives me 7.30. And my units are centimeters. That's M. Again, good example. So hit pause, copy this down into your notes. When you're ready to look at the next example, click play again. Okay, let's look at one more example. What I want you to do this time is I want you to hit pause before you look at the solution, work through it, and see if you can find P, that unknown side. You got 85 meters and 100 meters, two given sides, and then 15 degrees, the angle in between them. So label your triangle and work out P. When you're ready to check if your answer is correct, click play again. Okay, hopefully you've worked through that, you've got the correct answer. Like I say, we can relabel that. This is the side I'm looking for, so I can call this A. Oops. There we are. Call that A. Call this side B. Call this side C. And so if I relabel the vertex, that's A. opposite small b is capital B, and opposite small c is capital C. Now a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos A. A is in this case p, so p squared is equal to b squared, 100 squared, plus 85 squared minus 2 times 100 times 85 times cos of the angle in between is 15 degrees. Tell you what, in the calculator it likes it if you put brackets around there, so we'll do that. If I work that out on my calculator, put all those in, I should get 804.26. That's p squared, so p is going to be the square root of 804.26. When I work that out on my calculator, I should have got 28.36. And my units this time are meters. So I use big numbers there, and that's p. So hopefully you've got that one right. I think you've got two examples, so you don't need to write this one down. And move on to one more example, more of an exam style question. So this is what we call application. So you're using the formula in a problem solving, a real life kind of question. So there we are. Fishing boat leaves a harbour H, travels due east for 40 miles to a marker buoy. At B, the boat turns left on a bearing of 035 degrees, sails to a lighthouse 24 miles away. So from H it goes to B, and then from B it goes to L, then returns back to H. So make a sketch of the journey, and then once you made a sketch, find the total distance travelled by the boat. So they've given us two sides of our triangle, which we're going to find when we draw the shape, and the angle in between, and we've got to work out now the third side and then add them all up together. So what I want you to do is hit pause, sketch it, and then find the distance, add them together, and then see if you've managed to get it correct. And then when you're ready to check the solutions, hit play again. So as a sketch, the boat leaves H and travels due east. Never eat shredded wheat. So it travels due east for 40 miles, and then bearing of 0.35, so it travels upwards to L and then turns to harbour. It's going to look something like that. Travels due east and then 0.35, so from north is 0.35, so 90 plus 0.35 gives you 125, travels there to L, and then it returns back to the harbour. So we've got our triangle there. So if I put a north here and show you that 0.35, just so you can see where it comes from. So if I draw a line here, whoops, don't want to see the answer just yet. So if you draw a line going up there, that's north, and that's your 0.35. That's your bearing of 0.35 from the diagram. But this is 90, so 90 plus 0.35 gives you your 125 degrees. Okay, so now we want to find this distance from H to L. I'm going to call that A. I'm going to call this B. I'm going to call this C. If you haven't done this, if you haven't finished doing the question, hit pause, see if you can find A, and then add that to B and C. Okay. If you have done it, or you want to check your solution now, remember, always write the formula. A squared is equal to B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cos of A. So that's going to be B, we said is 40 squared plus C squared, C is 24, minus 2 times 40 times 24 times cos of the angle in between, 125. Plug that in my calculator, see what I get. And I've got 3,000, so I've got 3,277.27. Now I left that in the calculator. I didn't round in my calculator, and I'm just going to do square root of the answer. So square root of the answer, and that gives me 57.25. So I can round now. 57.25, but because I left this whole number and the rest in my calculator, I get a more accurate answer, and these are miles. Now the question asked me for the total distance traveled, not just A. So I've got the answer then, total, put a line here, I can say total is equal to 57.25 plus the 40 plus the 24, which is equal to, I put in my calculator, plus 40 plus 24 gives me a total distance traveled of 121.25. So 121.25, that's miles. Nearly wrote centimeters then. Good. So now you are ready to attempt some questions for me. And just before we move on, the question says to the nearest mile. So to the nearest mile, that's going to be 121 miles. Okay. Just checking to see if you were paying attention. So that's equal to 121 miles. And finally, some questions for you to attempt. It says give the answer to one decimal place. So off you go. Good luck.